presenter to check that it works.
Okay. Oh, I'm doing a private viewing. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it looks like I still have control, but you are a presenter, so should be able to take over.
Okay. Oh, I'm just viewing privately, so I'm thinking slide. I'll probably pause after the opening section around strategic context, so at the end of slide 21.
Okay.
And then,
so the recording's started, so any other instructions, maybe just put it in the chat box.
Okay.
It's okay. All right, thanks, William. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. If you just want to let me know in the message box that you can hear me and see the slide deck. So it looks like everyone can see. Yes, this deck and the recording will be available this afternoon, and we'll post that to Yammer. So I will go ahead and get started because we have a lot to cover today. Today's MPN 101 call will focus on the Cloud Solution Provider program. I know that this is a hot topic for everyone now, so looking forward to having your participation today. I have William Llewellyn on the call, who is the US CSP program lead, and Renee, who will be reading off your questions and addressing some of them in the chat box. So again, I'll start off with a program overview, and then from there, I can hand it over to William to talk about CSP. There are 4 key pillars to partnering with Microsoft. These are to differentiate your business, optimize your operations, modernize your sales and marketing, and deliver customer lifetime value. Specifically, when we talk about expertise, we offer different certifications, training, and exams to help you learn more about Microsoft products and services. To optimize your operations, we offer internal use rights, which is software for your employees to use, access to support, technical pre-sales assistance, and deployment services. For marketing, we offer several programs, including SureStep, Partner Marketing Center, and Smart Partner Marketing. To help you deliver customer lifetime value, we have programs including CSP and Fast Track. There are 3 types of membership for MPN. The network membership, which is our basic and free subscription. Next is Action Pack. This is a $475 subscription annually. This is for smaller partners with 10 employees or less, or ISVs. You get access to Microsoft software through the internal use rights, and there are no exams or assessments. Competencies are earned designations. We have both silver and gold. Each of them require exams and assessments, customer references, and provide additional benefits. Taking a deeper dive on earning a competency. Competencies are designed to help you meet the business needs of your customers while simultaneously making you appealing to fresh prospects. You stand out from your peers with your expertise and a competency badge to post to your site. You get access to additional benefits, which I'll cover a little later. Right now, there are 19 competencies in market. They each have their own requirements and they change frequently. So it's important to not only attend these calls, but check out the Microsoft Competency website linked to at the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. Again, these slides will be shared, so you can access this link once you get it this afternoon. Taking a look at the 19 competencies in market, we have them grouped into 6 categories: cloud platform and infrastructure, productivity, data management and analytics, mobility, business applications, and app builder and independent software vendor. Oops. Cloud competencies are what I would call the cream of the crop for the competencies that you can earn. These are each based on our cloud product offerings, which are Office 365, Azure, Dynamics CRM, and Dynamics 365, and Enterprise Mobility and Security. In the middle here, you do get the set of core benefits that you get with earning a silver or gold competency. But what I really want to call out here are the incremental benefits that you have access to with a cloud competency. So for example, with the cloud platform competency, in addition to the core licenses you get with any competency, you have access to additional Azure bulk credits. This is not a comprehensive list. I encourage you to go to the benefits table listed in the right-hand corner of the screen, go through each workload and their competencies at a high level, and check out each of the incremental benefits. The Cloud Enablement Desk is a great resource for helping partners earn a cloud competency. By nominating yourself to the Cloud Enablement Desk, you get access to a Microsoft Cloud Program Specialist for up to 6 months. They'll help you assess your business needs, go through the steps required to achieve a cloud competency, and provide you with the appropriate technical and business resources. The requirements are just that you be a member of MPN with an MPN ID and are willing to invest the time to build your cloud practice and pay for the competency if obtained. You can go to the link here to nominate yourself today. There are 4 steps to attaining a cloud competency. These are demonstrating sales performance, passing technical exams, provide customer evidence, and pay the fees. Program support benefits vary depending on the type of MPN membership that you have. For a competency member, you have access to advisory hours such as technical pre-sales assistance, which is a Microsoft specialist that helps you design the solutions for your customer. You have access to product support incidents. You'll see for gold, it's 20 versus 15 for silver, and down to 10 for Action Pack. One thing to note is these support incidents cost about $400 without a membership. So this is really a great benefit to take advantage of. You also get cloud support incidents and signature cloud support incidents with both gold and silver. Down at the bottom for network, you get basic benefits, which are the partner support community and online interactive sessions. To stay up to date on the program changes and learn about special topics like CSP that we'll be covering shortly, it's important that you attend these calls, as well as check out the hot sheet training schedule linked to here. This lists all of our in-person and virtual events. Our next call will be the Inspire Know Before You Go call. Dina Grimstead, our US Inspire lead, will be presenting on everything you need to know for our biggest partner event of the year. You can also check out past community calls by viewing them on demand through Event Builder or going to Yammer and downloading the slide decks. Additionally, you can connect with us by subscribing to our quarterly newsletter, again, participating in these calls, reading the blog, and check out the MPN Essentials site. Additionally, I really encourage everyone to join the Yammer site if you have not already. Not only is this where we post resources, but it's also a place to post your questions, engage with other partners, and demonstrate your expertise by answering other partners' questions. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Here's a deeper list of how to engage with us, including on the left-hand side links to our technical communities, and you can download this slide at the link above. Finally, I hope to see all of you at Inspire in July in Las Vegas. This is a great opportunity to make connections not only with Microsoft employees, but other partners, build your business, and share experiences. We'll have both a US area experience as well as an amazing performance by a Grammy-winning artist that I can't share yet on the final night. So please register today, and I hope to see all of you there. So Renee says we have a couple of questions.
Yes, there's a question, what is the cost for Gold partnership?
So Gold, I will share the link to the requirements for one now. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's a good question and can add it to the deck.
Great. There's also another question from Monica. What are the corresponding sites and resources for EMEA partners?
If you go to the the Microsoft Partner Network site, you will automatically get directed to the European site based on your IP address. That's my understanding. If you are having other issues, reach out to 1-800-MPN-SOLVE, or I encourage you to just take a look at Yammer. I don't have the link to their specific site, but I hope that helps. Back to the question on fees. The annual fee is $4,730, and you'll see this when you enroll.
Great. There's also a question about if you have an existing Premier support contact with Microsoft, does that retire the requirement for direct bill CSP partners?
Ooh, I'm not sure. William, maybe you can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
Okay, great.
That's it, Sarah.
Wasn't Bruno Mars released like months ago? Josh, you may be right, but they were careful initially about telling us because in the contract with Bruno Mars, as Microsoft, we have some rules around what we can share and what we can't. Pedro, will the announcement of including $15,000 per year Microsoft support as a requirement to remain direct CSP? William will be covering that. Okay, so from there, William, if you want to take it over, I know you have a lot to cover and we're already getting some questions, so looks like you're taking control of the slides now.
Great. Does everyone see a slide that says Cloud Solution Provider, Partner Integrated Cloud Solutions? I'll take that as a yes. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is William Lou Allen. As Sarah mentioned, I am the U.S. lead for the Cloud Solution Provider program, which I'll affectionately refer to as CSP for the balance of the presentation. And I'm excited to spend some time with you today talking about the program and what it looks like, why we're doing it, as well as a number of other important topics. Before I get started, something that would help me a lot, I want to take a minute to have you answer a few polling questions. And so Renee, if you could pull those up, that would be great. And if you're on, I really would appreciate your participation. It helps me kind of set context for who you are as a group. So thank you in advance.
Looks like they're coming up, William.
Okay.
If you like, we can circle back. Not sure how long it'll take people to answer.
Okay. If we could just give a few seconds on each one of those three, that would be great. And then maybe Renee, I don't see them, but if you could share that with me, that would be great context.
It looks like the vast majority are selling on CSP. So
Okay.
out of about 40 responses, we've got over 30.
Okay.
And that looks like the main one that people have answered so far, so I hope that helps.
Okay, great, cool. Let's get going. So here's how I'd like to spend our time today. I wanted to start with the strategic context of why we're doing the program, what's happening with customers, what's happening, what we're seeing happening in the partner community, and then to lay the foundation for what we're doing. Secondly, I want to do a program overview to make sure everyone is grounded on what it is and how it works, and then to talk about how to participate. And so it sounds like we have a lot of people who are already selling, so this will be familiar content for many of you, but hopefully for the rest of you will be informative in terms of how you think about taking action. Finally, I'll cover briefly the incentives related to CSP, and then also talk about some of the support options that are out there. So on the left-hand side of the slide are the the customer problems that we articulate that the company is focused on trying to solve, right? So these are now looking through the lens of really taking on problems that can be solved with technology that are not technology-led necessarily, but kind of relate to things that drive revenue and or profitability for our end customers. And I believe that you've probably seen one or more versions of our total addressable market slide. This is a little bit different representation, but just shows the evolution of the opportunity as it's been defined. Essentially moving from a 5% addressable market to looking at a much larger pie as technology becomes much more pervasive within how companies not only help their employees do the basics, but also how it gets into their business processes, and as they look to take advantage of new capabilities and leading edge services, especially around the area of customer engagement, looking at artificial intelligence and machine learning, and doing a variety of things and restructuring supply chains and bringing efficiencies to their companies. Another dynamic that we've seen for quite some time, and this is a quote from J.B. Wood's book called Consumption Economics that I'd really recommend that you read if you haven't already. The bullet point here is really that customers, a lot of power has shifted from the industry towards our customers. The cloud has enabled this, the concept of a subscription economy, has enabled this. And so customers, we have to earn our business, our customers' business on a much more frequent basis. People are only going to pay for what they use, and it's going to be easier for customers to move their business to another provider if their higher expectations are not being met. So this isn't just a statement for you, it's a statement for Microsoft as well, right? We face this as a reality in the market together. So the market opportunity is significantly bigger. The customer drivers are moving towards more choice, and so ultimately where we need to land is looking at customers in a different way. Moving from a focus on kind of transaction, whether that's being the sale of a license portfolio, or that's a signing of a statement of work, and looking at moving in more towards evaluating customers and delivering offerings and solutions to them that are focused on a lifetime value. And I think one of the things that this will significantly impact is, there will be certain customers through this journey that we will come to understand are less profitable for us, and that I think that there's also going to be the opportunity for us to look at rethinking how we select customers that we want to sell to. Because some customers will continue to be stuck in a paradigm that will challenge our profitability, given where we're trying to take the business. So at this point, I want to pause and see if there are any kind of questions related to the strategic context, kind of more broadly, before I move into some specifics around CSP. Renee, do you have anything that's come up?
So far, not yet.
Okay. Great. Let's go ahead and move forward then.
Okay.
A few years ago, we published, in partnership with IDC, we actually did a number of studies with several industry firms and have come up with some things that are really kind of guiding lights for us. And this kind of is a little bit more detail on what I mentioned around the quote from Consumption Economics. Customers are looking for a much simpler procurement process. Part of the paradigm before was the burden was on the customer to do a lot of the procurement from multiple vendors, doing various negotiations, looking at different types of licensing and pricing models. And customers kind of feel like, that in the world of cloud, two things are going to be happening. One, there's the opportunity for a simplified and therefore less costly purchase process. And then two, they're looking to aggregate and expect to be able to procure more services from individual partners. So I think while there is that increases the expectation on us, I think it's also an increasing it increases the opportunity, because I think this means when we meet customer solutions, our stickiness within the account has the opportunity to increase. This slide is, there's even a greater proportion of partners who are looking for people to become trusted advisors in their relationship, as opposed to a vendor who is selling something to them. I tie this back to a campaign we had in the market a number of years ago called Journey to the Cloud, right? So many customers are still very early in this journey. They know that they need to do something. Oftentimes they don't know what it is. They don't know in what order it needs to be done. And so they're looking for someone who can help guide them along in that process. The good news here is this is another opportunity for us to have an increased amount of influence over the direction the customers take. So when I think about what CSP is, it's not a single thing. I, in a broadest sense, think about it as a platform for business transformation, both for our partners and for our company. At its simplest level, it is a licensing model and program. It's a program where you can resell our cloud services, both all of the seat-based services as well as Azure. It's also an annuity stream. There is margin and back-end incentives that are related to the amount of sales that go through. And so this gives you an opportunity to create a monthly recurring revenue stream that can help smooth out the cash flow of your company, and also is attractive to both equity and debt financial players as they look at evaluating your business, either for funding to grow or looking at potential acquisitions. Finally, it's a more integrated experience, and it's a way for you to have a greater level of ownership over the customer lifecycle. So we're really betting with this now more than ever on our partners. If you look at the right hand of the slide, this kind of looks at the core activities that partners are doing, from the packaging and the creation and the pricing of different offers and services and solutions, to having the infrastructure to be the billing interface to the end client, and then being the point of essentially running and operating that managed service, evaluating what's happening, and then having the opportunity to, based on analytics, to serve up cross-sell and upsell opportunities to customers. As I mentioned before, this is all of our cloud services. And one thing I wanted to say, many of you mentioned you're already selling today, and so I really want to say thank you. Overall, we've had a significant amount of success so far. We have more than 250,000 customers here in the U.S. so far since we've launched the business in our fiscal 2014. We have more than 6 million end users, and the business is growing nearly 200% year on year. A few other statistics that might be of interest to you. We have now more than 10,000 partners in the U.S. who are selling through the program. And we're finding a pretty healthy clip of in the range of 8 to 12% of month-over-month growth, which is really fabulous. The other thing I'll indicate to you is that this really smooths out the business cycle for us. We don't have some of the traditional ups and downs on a monthly or a quarterly basis like we do in our traditional licensing business, because it is a recurring subscription model. It makes the business a lot more predictable for us, and as you sell, that should flow through in a similar way to you. So there's two types of pricing models within CSP. One of it is a per user. So for all of the online services, these are 12-month subscriptions. They're almost always billed as monthly, but annual billing is available. You have the ability to change quantity and add things at any time. The great thing there is end customers don't have to make upfront commitments. They can, pilot things. They can turn things on and turn things off. And it gives a greater opportunity for experimentation with low risk. Azure is billed in arrears. I think this is a pretty obvious one. We can't, there's so much fluctuation here. We have to kind of see what that usage is actually before we bill it. And again, that's done on a monthly basis. So over the years, we've increased a number of the types of scenarios that we support. A few things. So education is one of them. We launched the education pricing in CSP a while back. Just recently, a couple months ago, I believe it was, we launched the availability of charity and not-for-profit pricing within CSP. Last year, about this time, we launched the availability of Azure government cloud services, and we will be looking in the near future to be making the remainder of our cloud services, our online services, available in our national cloud here within the U.S. So where are we seeing success? Like, what type of customers, do we see as good candidates? I think one of them is, and this is probably the most important of them all is that, when partners really do a great job of creating solutions that wrap a lot of their value add around our products. So if you think about the profitability profile that we believe, in our terms, the modern partner will have, with differentiation and solution offerings and managed services, we see that as where a predominant portion of profitability is going to come. And so we find that partners who are doing that already, as opposed to kind of just simply reselling licenses, or having significantly larger deal sizes and have significantly less churn. Another big area that we see is there are a lot of businesses who have seasonal fluctuations, or based on the industry that they're in or where they are in their own company life cycle, have a greater amount of uncertainty. So customers who are doing a lot of M&A type activity, there are businesses with seasonal workforce. So if you think about hospitality and retail, those are two areas. And you also have businesses that just have a lot of frequent turnover and change. So actually, we see a lot of customers in the real estate industry who are CSP customers. There are also a number of customers who are not just kind of looking at individual workloads, but simply looking to outsource IT. And so those represent a lot of our customers who are simply saying, give me the flexibility of having someone kind of provide this soup to nuts on a price per user per month basis, and then use the partner really to kind of get very, very deep within their business. So I'm not going to drain the slide. There's kind of just guidance here in thinking about when and how to engage customers. A few things to think about here in particular. CSP today doesn't offer on-premise software, and so if your customer has on-premise needs, there are other licensing programs that today you still have to work with. So those hybrid solutions can't all be solved through CSP today. I do expect that to evolve over time, but today that's kind of where things set. Take a look. We talked about profitability, so we have both global and local accelerators, and so making sure that as you think about what type of business that you or service offerings you want to have, looking at the various incentives that we have to help you understand what the profitability profile will look like on those, and then finally. Opportunities where there's the clear connection between a solution and a managed service opportunity. I think that's going to again drive another recurring revenue stream that is more predictable and is significantly more profitable than reselling licenses. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions that folks have on kind of the basics of the program. What's included, etc.
Hi, William. Okay, there's a question from Pedro. CSP support have confirmed us that at the moment there is no technically straightforward way to change status of tenant from direct to indirect. This means that that is needed to create a new tenant, enroll in it as indirect, migrate IUR subscriptions, migrate users, migrate content, set policies again from zero, reestablish delegated administration with all customers, etc. Will partners moving from direct to indirect will have to go through this process?
So the global teams our global operations team are defining the details of what that process is going to look like, and they're working with our indirect providers to help guide partners through that process. We're about 60 days away, 75 days away from the beginning of that wave, and so yes, we do plan on having an engagement process to help coach partners through the process. There will be, just as a, excuse me, there will be a kind of a T-minus 90 schedule that team uses. And so if you're in that scenario as you're reseller agreement comes up for annual renewal, that team will start an engagement process about 3 months in advance.
Okay. George had a question. Has Microsoft worked out an arrangement in CSP Tier 2 disties where bundled solutions, Microsoft and others, will be cheaper than a customer buying it themselves? I hear what you're saying. If customers
Renee, you're cutting out.
Yep.
Okay. Let me repeat again. I hear what you're saying, but if customers just move to a structure that costs them, will they not question this? Also, from the Microsoft side, will we be charged fees to be CSP? Silver, Gold partners already pay a fee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I missed, when you repeated it, there was a piece of the beginning question that fell out. I'll try to answer what I heard.
No problem. I just IM'd it to you as well, so you can read it.
Okay. If you guys will give me one quick moment. In the Tier 2 model, right, because it's 100% channel-led from our perspective, I don't see how the business model works for 2 tiers to be selling something to the channel that somehow in some way would be available at a cheaper price to customers, because in the end that completely upends the profitability model for a partner who's selling, and that to me that kind of destroys what the value prop of a distributor or indirect provider is. And I'll have to say I haven't seen that happening, but if like I said, I haven't heard of it happening. But obviously, if a customer is simply shopping based on price and something is out there, I don't think either that you would still get the kind of value-added services that you would get from yourself versus kind of purchasing the underlying components. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Let me address the question about fees and some of the earlier questions about support here in just a second. So there's been reference made to direct and indirect and some older terminology used around Tier 1 and Tier 2. I wanted to cover the indirect model for a few reasons. One of which is we know that most partners want to, essentially partner with these large providers who have made massive investments in a number of different areas. One of which is the capability of providing Tier 2 and Tier 3 support to excuse me, to help backstop and support you best in how you support your end customers. Most, if not all of them, have some type of a commerce portal, not only that you can kind of leverage internally, but also put branding on and expose that to your end customers. And so that helps essentially alleviate costs that you would have to otherwise incur on your own. They have marketplaces, right? So they pull together various multiple offerings into bundled solutions that make it more efficient for you to piece together a more complete solution. Most of it, they all provide credit, right, which is, I would say, would be generally more flexible than Microsoft does. We have a very conservative financial policy. And then business services and guidance. So if you think about what we do through the MPN program, our indirect providers really build on top of around that, and that's part of the value that they bring to the channel. Right, and so really our primary guidance is to work with one of these partners. Here you see who many of them are. Some of them you'll be familiar with. Some of them you may not be. I know oftentimes partners have relationships, may have relationships with multiple providers, but we want to ensure, a diverse ecosystem of people who have different, these folks, we were talking about differentiating to stand out earlier. We also expect our indirect providers to do the same. And most of them have different areas in which they focus, and have, their reputations tend to be known pretty well within the partner community. So if you're looking for feedback on them, look to the left and look to the right. I think that you'll be able to, to get some good insight. I know at one time we had some guidance on how to interview an indirect provider. I'll have to see if that's still published. But if you aren't working with one, or even if you are, if you kind of want to explore the depths of the relationship a little bit further, there are some questions that we can help, that we can offer to help guide what that discovery process looks like. So I'm not going to drain this slide, but I'll say two things, one of which is this is the fastest way to kind of get to market. It's the least risk involved from a financial perspective, and 90% of our partners are selling. Right, so I mentioned 10,000 partners. It's actually closer to 11,000 now are selling. So a super majority of our partners are choosing this model, and we expect that to be the case going forward. So I want to now address the other model that we talked about is the direct model, and there are a few questions around support and fees. Effective August 31st, for the direct model, we have put in place a requirement that partners purchase at least advanced support for partners or higher. So there was a question earlier about whether Premier support for partners will qualify. The answer to that question is yes. Advanced support for partners is the minimum level. This is on par with what we see with our peers in the industry. We also, the leading driver here is customer experience is most paramount. If you look in the cloud reseller agreement, there's probably more language about customer support than anything else. And so I think it's important to not only think about how Microsoft can be a level 2 and level 3 support, that if you're in the direct model that you wouldn't get because indirect providers offer those to their resellers. There are a lot of partners are also separately monetizing enhanced support offerings by essentially repackaging and selling that as a value add to end customers. Advanced support for partners is, I believe it's around $1,200 a month. And again, that requirement is going into effect. I guess I would say it goes into effect August 31st, but direct partners will be required to have that taken care of by the anniversary of their enrollment date. So that means, right, this is going to kind of come in over time, starting in September all the way through July of next year, based on what your enrollment date is. So let's quickly cover incentives, and then we'll kind of open it up to additional questions. So regardless of the direct or indirect, there are reseller incentives that you're eligible for, right? So we want to. This is in addition to the margin on the front end. This requires active MPN membership. You have to have one of the defined competencies in place. This has changed year over year from a managed partner status to something that's much more controllable. So the programs and the competencies that Sarah mentioned before, this was 8% in FY17 and 18. I believe that is going to remain stable in FY19 as well. On top of the global programs, there are local accelerators. And actually, the accelerators can be local or global based on what the product area is. But these are the ones that are in effect for FY18. And I know at the beginning of the year, we usually do a lot of training and readiness on incentives. And so I'm assuming in the next month or two, updates on this will be coming out to this community as well. So again, right, it's competency based. If you've earned a competency, you become eligible. If you earn one of the competencies, at least on the silver basis, you become eligible for those incremental incentives and rebates. So a number of, actually there's some overlap here with some of the resources that Sarah had mentioned, but definitely all the content around becoming a modern partner is highly relevant. CSP becomes a enabling platform for the work that you invest to do that. A lot of good content around cloud partner profitability supporting that. Partnercenter.microsoft.com has a lot of information about the program. There is a lot of how-to information. If you go to that site, there's a sub-menu called Partner Center Help, and that's a great place to explore a variety of topics. We also have a partner Yammer community that is staffed by worldwide SMEs who can answer a wide variety of questions. That's a great resource as well. And there's also a link. Sometimes people have questions about how CSP differs from other licensing programs. You can use the resources here at the bottom of that to answer some of those questions. So, right, our goal is we want all partners to identify their path to participate and see how it fits in with their business. And ultimately, like I said, success we think is going to be defined around creating what's unique about you. What your pitch is to end customers, and then being in a position where you can have a good pricing model, therefore, in place that customers are willing to pay that will drive the profitability that you're seeking for your business. So thanks for the time. I think I'm going to open up for Q&A. And Renee, are you now kind of putting those in my chat window?
William, they're in there. Let me know if you'd like me to read them or if you want to take a look yourself.
If it might be helpful can everyone on the call see what the questions are?
No, so I'll read them off. Monica's asking, large enterprises usually own a direct relationship with Microsoft. They have an EA of their own. Why would these customers switch to CSP?
Yeah, so we do we have different levels of EA penetration in our managed account space. So this is not a primary area that we are proactively driving sales. That said, we are seeing customers of all shapes and sizes who are interested in the core value props of CSP. There are people who, for one reason or another, are unwilling or unable to make, a multi-year commitment that's required in EA. There are people who prefer the flexibility over the cheaper kind of pricing, if you will, through EA. Right, there is a financial value to be able to kind of change your licensing footprint on a monthly basis. That is valuable. So, and in that scenario, I would say there are a good number of people who end up licensing scenarios that they would not have licensed on an EA because they have the seasonal workforce type of model where it was just prohibitive for them to pay full year costs for partial year use. So it's not an area that we are that we're proactively pushing just from a white space. We're not looking to create competition between multiple licensing models, but we are selling in that space. And those are some of the kind of end customer drivers.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is from Amy. The CSP invoices are very difficult to read and reconcile. Is there any talk about making these more partner friendly?
Yep, it's a very common point of feedback. I know that our engineering and platform operations teams have heard that. I don't have visibility to anything specific that is slated from a timeline, but all of the partner feedback, this is an interesting point. They actually aggregate and analyze all of the partner feedback that comes in not only from our support center, but from the Yammer community. And then they use that to help prioritize investments in various improvements. So I hear you. I have sympathy for the challenges. I've seen those, and I know they can be difficult to operationalize, but it's definitely top of mind for engineering and operations to improve that process, since it is time consuming, which is money.
Great. William is asking, where do we find the annual renewal date?
Yeah, within Partner Center, I think it's on the profile page. It has what your current status is, and it has a date. And as a grounding point, this is the date on which you actually signed a contract. So, if you think back to when that happened through the onboarding process, that sits on the profile page.
Great. Daniel asks, with the push to get smaller customers off CSP Direct, will options like QMTH become available to indirect customers?
I don't know the answer to that question. We'll have to find a way to serve that up and kind of get that back. I would also recommend, Daniel, if you're a member of the Yammer community, to serve that up. I'm vaguely familiar with QMTH. But I don't know. One of the things that is happening is a variety of programs that are related to CSP are being reviewed for these types of dependencies, if you will. And there is a worldwide team who's analyzing all of those. So I know that if something requires direct specifically, they're looking at evaluating that, but I don't have anything specific at this time around that program.
Okay. Next question, Cindy asks, will Microsoft be opening up applications for direct CSP, and when will the new program requirements be available?
Yep. So the requirements have been communicated out into the market. There is the effective date of August 31st, and that's the time in which the ability to enroll oneself in direct will be available again. It's currently we've kind of closed the door on that kind of over the summer months. And again, the requirements for that there'll be a process to do to attest to the managed services, IP offerings, and integrated solutions that you offer, attestation around your support capabilities and the infrastructure, both from a billing and support perspective, to run the business. And then the second requirement is around purchasing one of the paid support plans, with advanced support for partners being the minimum.
Next question from Josh, will advanced support for partners be required for indirect resellers? This costs $15,000 to $30,000 per year.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. What is the criteria for being an indirect provider? We found some straight hardware sellers to the final customer at our local Spanish listing.
Indirect providers are very large scale people who are selling through hundreds and in many cases thousands of resellers. So, right, when I mentioned we have more than 10,000 total transacting resellers, we have fewer than 30 indirect providers. So it's a super high bar that requires a lot of investment and a lot of expectation around driving, pretty significant scale.
Uday asks, we appreciate Microsoft's CSP program and we are a direct CSP partner. We're experiencing a bad situation selling the license to education customers, as this is a nightmare, as they get a lower price from Microsoft directly compared to the price from CSP. If this is the case, how can we do business?
So I'm not aware of why the CSP price list would be different. The one thing I can think of is we've implemented a consistent margin structure across all of the licensing programs relative to retail. I haven't had a lot of exposure to the education market. There is a education market specialist who's a member of my V team, and I could kind of inquire with him about this. But again, I would, Pedro, I would encourage you to join the Partner Center, what's called the Partner Center Yammer community, and this is a great place to get answers to questions like that.
All right, great. So the next question is, why does Microsoft think my direct partners need $15,000 a year Microsoft support if they have already invested in training and certificates and the staff being able to provide the customer support so far by themselves?
Yeah, it's an excellent and very fair question. Like I said, the most paramount thing to us is we're changing the nature of the relationship and kind of ceding more of that responsibility to partners is to ensure a super high quality experience. So if you think about the indirect providers, they're already required to have Microsoft as a backstop to their support organizations. So this is essentially putting in place what becomes available through an indirect provider. Before, right, we didn't have that requirement. We have had a number of support issues. We've also worked closely with the support team to understand how partners are using this, not only to provide reactive support, but to build offerings around enhancing, meaning being able to charge for additional levels of support. So I think of it less as something that just introduces costs, but also becomes an opportunity for profitability. And then from our perspective is making sure that customers have a extremely high quality experience.
All right. Next question, and just so everyone knows, I did extend the stream for a little longer, William. I'm not sure if you're available to stay on. If not, I can send all of the questions to William after the call, and we can reply to everyone with the answers to those who registered. The next question is, why don't we have, or why isn't the requirement pay-as-you-go support?
I'm sorry, can you reiterate the question?
So it looks like Pedro's asking about why isn't it required, or why couldn't you just use pay-as-you-go support as opposed to, I think, this set $15,000 a year requirement?
So like on a pay-per-incident model?
Yeah, yes.
I don't know how that was considered. I know that those paper incidents are, I think you referenced this before, they're fairly expensive. Most partners I talk to have indicated if they have two or three, if they leverage the support plan 2 or 3 times in the year, that the plan tends to pay for itself, even if they're not charging extra for that capability. And so, right, obviously using something that you pay for is what kind of creates value. And so, you know, the annual plans that I believe can be paid both monthly and quarterly or upfront, you know, provide just a more consistent experience. And I just don't know if they considered having a pay per incident model.
Got it. ASFP and Premier support are only required for direct providers, right? Are there any support? Yeah, okay, great. The incentives appear to expire in 10 days. Can you provide details on what they'll be in 11 days? Josh, I can take that one, having just moved on from the incentives team. We can't provide extensive details until July 1. The team will be at Inspire to present on the program changes and answer any questions. We do have a deck on the incentives Yammer that Mike Steinigel, who is one of the incentives leads in the U.S., and he does provide a preview, but again, I think the program details have only just been finalized and won't be public until July 1. Next question is, where can CSP Direct partners find more information about the execution of these changes? We simply haven't been presented enough information to make the correct business decision to switch between the programs.
Excuse me. As I mentioned, there's a pod or a team within the support organization that is going to be beginning an engagement with partners 3 months out from the renewal date. There is some information out today. I would describe it as more high level. The question is how it actually happens has not been communicated. I would expect that to happen. I understand we're already calling down on partners who have renewal dates in September, but expect more, not only that engagement to increase, but the documentation to become available through both online from Microsoft as well as through indirect providers, because they will play a role in kind of executing what that experience looks like.
Okay, thanks, William.
Yeah.
Will you automatically become indirect if you do not pay the new support fee?
Yeah, if partners choose not to meet those requirements, right? So you say it's not a fit for me, then right, what we want to do is have a transition process in place for you to move that business over to the indirect model, and that's what the support team and that's what the indirect providers are going to partner to help make that process work.
Scott asks, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I apologize. I have a customer call coming up,
Okay.
and so I'm gonna need to jump.
Okay, great.
I'd like to say thank you for the engagement of everybody. Lots of great questions, and I appreciate you guys again being engaged and for being a partner with us in this business.
Great. Thanks, William. I'll share all the remaining questions with you and make sure everyone who's on the call gets the answers. So thank you again. Everyone, you'll get the deck and the recording later this afternoon. Our next call is on July 11th about Inspire, and I hope to talk to you then. Thank you.